Hello. Today I'm going to tell you a bit about what I understood from the book Communication Power written by Manuel Castells. He focuses on the role of communication networks in power making in this book, with an emphasis on political power making. And his central question is who is the power holder in communication networks? Now, I don't want to give a summary of the whole book, and I'm a private sector student, so not too interested in politics, anyways. Um, So I just picked some stuff that I found interesting myself, like how Castells talked about the information sent by people. I also talked about this in one of my articles. Communicating is like an animalistic need that people have. We send signals that are to be received, and the tool to do this is the media. However, the message can be adapted by either the different kinds of media, but even more by the receiver. And since we're all individuals, we construct our own reality with this. A lot of the times, emotions play a role in constructing these messages, even in politics, actually. In political campaigns, the feeling the people have towards a candidate or a party are actually more important than the real policy issues discussed by the party. And the influenceability and emotionality of the people is therefore abused in a lot of political campaigns. And Castell calls this political violence really extreme. And it's actually a form of mass manipulation where a candidate or a party creates anxiety about certain issues, wherein the emotion of fear is very present. And an example of this is the Dutch right-wing politician Geert Wilders. He was in the media because he had some extreme views about immigrants in the Netherlands to get this message across. He used the emotion of fear as a motivator for his message. Another thing that Castells mentioned was the categorization of communication. He talked about mass communication, which is one directional. The audience can comment only on television programs, radio programs, magazines, etc. Then there is self mass communication, many to many, and this can reach a global audience too, but it has a more interactive environment. And yeah, it's like the internet. You send self generated messages to many people, but you can even choose your audience and your receivers. They are self-directed too. So it's like posting a message about what I did during my exchange in Japan on Facebook, which is visible for only my friends. And the last one was interpersonal communication, which is one-to-one. And this is actually like emailing my best friend about the crazy stuff that happened during my exchange in Japan. One last remark on this categorization. Castells mentioned that these communication styles they interact and complement each other rather than substituting each other. Now I want to talk about Rushkoff's book, Program or Be Programmed. This writer has a slightly negative approach, or more cautious maybe, to digitalization. He is trying to inform us about the digital environment, and he tells us about the correct ways of dealing with it. He mentions, for example, that we need to pay attention to our own behaviors online, since our computer screens are the interfaces through which we express ourselves and show ourselves to the outer world. However, we cannot be seen since it's not face-to-face communication. And yeah, this might give us a feeling of being untouchable. So this can lead to different behavior or to depersonalization, and our identities can even transform. We can portray ourselves in such a way that we fit in a certain cool category online, and the writer warns us for such transformation of identities, and he says that we need to be on guard for such deception. But seriously, we are the digital natives, and I think we really do know if something is deception or if something is real. Like, we see how some people have the most full walls on Facebook, but that they are actually the most lonely in life sometimes because they only have either shallow contacts or only online contacts. And this is the illusion that the internet can create. But I think that people of our age, most of the time, kind of know what is really going on. A thing that I absolutely agreed on with the writer is that we shouldn't ignore or only observe digitalization, but rather be a part of it. Because all the digital messages we send are adapted by the receivers, as I said earlier, with their personal perceptions and also by the medium used. And this can lead into surprises in terms of privacy or copyright if we are not too familiar with the medium we use. And the writer continuously emphasizes that many of us have too little understanding of this digitalization, so the internet in this case, and it's actually true, especially in the area of privacy on the internet. We should inform ourselves more and climb out of the victim role. We are not victims of some authoritarian privacy terms writer, an internet programmer, or web designer. We can actually step up and do something about it instead of complaining about how they are fooling us. And yeah, everything that you put online can be copied or used and pulled out of context. And therefore, you should be careful, I think, and you are responsible about what you put online and not the programmer. So, if we get informed about this, we will get more control over something we use every day. Because no knowledge is basically no voice. Um, Another interesting passage of the book is when the writer said that by using a dislocating technology for local connection, we use our sense of place. And I think this is indeed a problem that is going on right now. We get too attached to our social networks, to twittering and facebooking at parties, and this makes that we're not living here, but that we're living there online on the internet somewhere. And this is totally ridiculous, in my opinion. And we should think about this because making a picture to put it on Facebook and get some comments and likes, this has become normal. But I think making a picture to print it out and put it on your wall to look at it as a precious memory is way more healthy. However, dislocation can have its advantages too, of course. But I will talk about this later in the video. Overall, my opinion about this book is that I agree on most things, but I think the writer is too much making a conspiracy theory. He is too extreme sometimes. He uses a lot of strong vocabulary, and I prefer to see a little more simpler. If you want to have a voice, you have to inform yourself, and yeah, there is no greater programmer that is trying to manipulate everyone. It's just that, yeah, you should inform yourself. Lastly, I want to talk about my own experience with the digital world or my exchange in Japan. Well, I loved that there were digital social networks I could use, especially Skype. I loved being able to see my family and friends and to talk with them made me feel less homesick actually, because it was like talking with my mom in the living room. However, these Skype sessions did consume time, and the connection wasn't always clear, and it shut me off of reality sometimes. Um, yeah, every time I was done after talking with my family, I was like, okay, well, my thoughts were in Holland, but I was in Japan, so that was not a good thing, I think. It made me more dependent on my family in a way. Um, yeah, Facebook is another social network that I use a lot. I uploaded pictures for my friends to see, especially the weird and funny ones. However, um, after a while, I noticed that I was taking pictures um, for Facebook, like, oh, this is funny or this is weird. I have to put this on Facebook, which is solely not the purpose of taking pictures in the first place. So after that, I started to upload less pictures. Um, yeah, what I did like on Facebook is that I could see what all my friends at home were doing, and I could be updated. And yeah, Facebook also got me in contact with my family in Australia. As soon as I updated my status a year ago that I was going to Japan, they asked me to stop by and visit them in Australia. And so it happened. I'm making this assignment in my cousin's room in Brisbane now. So that's a nice thing of digitalization, actually. Lastly, I made a blog while I was in Japan, and I described my experience from a European perspective. What is different, what is weird, what is great, and so on. Actually, I made that blog mainly for myself to look back at my wonderful time I had, and I can read back what I did now and see the pictures and retrieve my memories. And it's like an online diary, so I love to blog.